What happens when $100 billion dream city is built for hundreds of thousands of people, but almost nobody comes? And what happens when that emptiness starts attracting exactly the kind of people you would never want as neighbors? Forest City was supposed to be the future, a gleaming metropolis rising from reclaimed islands on Malaysia's southern coast, just across the water from Singapore. Luxury apartments, waterfront offices, hotels, an international school, a golf resort, a water park, built at a cost of $100 billion, promising homes for 700,000 people. Instead, it became one of Asia's most infamous ghost towns. Towers stood empty, roads stayed quiet, shops shuttered, and in July 2026, Malaysian police entered dozens of its apartments and found something that made international headlines, for all the wrong reasons. But to understand what they discovered, and why an empty city is more dangerous than it looks, you first need to understand how a development of this scale was allowed to fail so completely. Because the story of what happened inside those empty apartments began long before anyone moved in. Or didn't. Forest City was launched in 2016, spearheaded by Chinese developer Country Garden in partnership with Esplanade Danga 88, a Malaysian company backed by Johor's royal family and state interests. Its master plan covered around 14 square kilometers of reclaimed land off Johor's southern coast, promising a green, self-contained metropolis with every amenity imaginable. Its location near Singapore appeared ideal. Buyers could own more affordable property beside one of Asia's most expensive cities. But despite its international branding, Forest City depended overwhelmingly on buyers from China. During China's property boom, overseas homes appealed to families seeking investments, holiday residences, and assets outside the country. Prices remained beyond the reach of most Malaysians, leaving the development dangerously reliant on a single source of foreign demand. That demand collapsed quickly. China tightened controls on money leaving the country, cutting off the primary source of buyers. Then in 2018, Malaysia's then Prime Minister, Mahathir Mohamad, announced restrictions affecting visas for Chinese buyers and publicly criticized the creation of a city largely intended for foreigners. The political fallout damaged investor confidence at exactly the wrong moment. Forest City also faced deeper structural problems that no amount of marketing could fix. Built on reclaimed islands far from central Johor Bahru, it had no jobs, no established transport links, and no organic community to attract ordinary residents. Environmental concerns about the land reclamation added further complications. And then COVID-19 halted international travel entirely, freezing sales and strangling what little momentum remained. By the time the pandemic lifted, China's property market had collapsed. Country Garden, Forest City's lead developer, was drowning in debt. In 2023, Reuters reported that roughly 28,000 homes had been completed, but fewer than 10,000 people lived there. Some estimates placed the permanent population below 5,000. Only 15 to 20% of the original project had been built. The result was a city of nearly empty towers, quiet roads, and shuttered shops. Malaysia later designated Forest City a special financial zone and introduced incentives to attract investors and skilled workers. Low rents drew some expatriates and remote workers. But the development remained a shadow of what had been promised. Vast, quiet, and largely vacant. That vacancy, it turned out, was exactly what certain people were looking for. On July 15, 2026, Johor police raided apartments and bungalows across Forest City and uncovered 2 organized online scam operations running simultaneously. The raids led to the arrest of 335 people, most of them Chinese nationals, along with suspects from Indonesia, Myanmar, and Malaysia. Some of the foreigners allegedly lacked valid travel documents. The equipment seized inside pointed to operations built for scale. Hundreds of computers, more than 1,500 mobile phones, laptops, communications equipment, and a vehicle, with the total haul valued at roughly 1 million ringgit. These were not isolated individuals working from home. Investigators believed the properties housed organized teams targeting victims overseas with two distinct methods. The larger suspected syndicate used Telegram, WhatsApp, and TikTok to identify targets. Operators built online romantic relationships with victims, gradually earning their trust before steering them toward fraudulent cryptocurrency investments. Others approached victims more directly with promises of lucrative returns. In either case, the investments allegedly did not exist, or victims found they could not withdraw their money when they tried. The second suspected syndicate posed as representatives of a law firm and promoted similar cryptocurrency schemes, primarily targeting victims in China and Indonesia. By operating abroad, the syndicates could exploit Malaysia's digital infrastructure while reducing the risk of complaints from the surrounding community. Investigations were opened into suspected cheating, criminal conspiracy, and immigration violations. The alleged masterminds remained at large, with Malaysian investigators working alongside Interpol to locate them. The raids exposed why Forest City's emptiness made it so attractive to cross-border fraud networks. A large online scam operation needs reliable electricity, fast internet, accommodation, and enough space for workers and communications equipment. Forest City offered all of these at low cost. But its most valuable asset was something else entirely: privacy. In a busy residential neighborhood, a constant flow of workers, unusual operating hours, and deliveries of equipment attract attention. In Forest City, entire floors sat mostly empty. Teams could occupy multiple apartments without a single neighbor to question what they were doing. The development's international image provided additional cover. Forest City was still being actively promoted as a destination for global investors, technology companies, and digital professionals. Groups of foreigners working from laptops and mobile phones would not have looked out of place. Its location compounded its usefulness. Forest City sits close to Singapore, with Johor's road network, border crossings, and international airports within easy reach. Malaysia's visa exemption arrangements made entry straightforward for some foreign nationals. Shortly before the raids, Malaysia's police chief had warned that transnational scam organizations were already exploiting those exemptions to establish operations in the country. Forest City was not an isolated case. Malaysian authorities had previously uncovered online scam centers in condominiums and bungalows across Johor, Penang, Kuala Lumpur, and the Klang Valley. In May 2026, police arrested nearly 200 people in a separate Klang Valley operation and seized assets worth close to 58 million ringgit. These cases were part of a broader regional shift. For years, industrial-scale scam compounds had operated openly in Cambodia, Myanmar, and Laos, often relying on trafficked workers confined and forced to deceive victims. As international pressure intensified, criminal organizations began adapting, dispersing operations across multiple countries, making them harder to detect and easier to relocate. Forest City's empty towers were a ready-made solution. The scam raids were not the only controversy to hit Forest City that month. Johor authorities ordered Network School, a private residential community for technology entrepreneurs and remote workers, to shut down. Founded by American investor and former Coinbase executive Balaji Srinivasan, Network School had brought something Forest City desperately needed: people. Around 260 foreign participants were reportedly living there, paying between $1,500 and $3,000 per month for accommodation, co-working facilities, lectures, coding workshops, and hackathons. Their presence had brought customers and activity to a development still struggling to sustain a permanent population. But Network School carried ideological baggage that made Malaysian authorities uneasy. It was shaped by Srinivasan's concept of a network state, a digitally connected community that could establish physical settlements independent of existing governments. In a country where sovereignty and foreign political influence are sensitive, that philosophy attracted scrutiny. Controversy sharpened when allegations emerged that Israeli nationals had joined the program using passports issued by other countries. Malaysia has no diplomatic relations with Israel and generally prohibits Israeli passport holders from entering without prior approval. Authorities investigated but said they found no evidence of travel document offences. The legal basis for the closure was ultimately more procedural. The Iskandar Puteri City Council concluded that the operator had breached its business license conditions and was using parts of the property for unapproved purposes. The license was revoked and operations ordered to cease. Members were given little time to adjust. Signs came down, co-working premises were sealed, and residents packed their belongings. Some returned home. Others began exploring a planned campus in Kazakhstan. Even so, its closure dealt Forest City another damaging blow. A functioning community that had injected life and spending into the development vanished just as criminal activity was being uncovered elsewhere in the same buildings. Together, the two events exposed Forest City's central dilemma with uncomfortable clarity. It urgently needs residents, businesses, and international investment. But filling its empty buildings also requires effective licensing, immigration controls, and meaningful oversight. Precisely the systems that were not in place when both situations unfolded. Forest City's ghost town label is no longer just about empty apartments and disappointed investors. It is about what happens when ambition outruns accountability, and who moves in to fill the gap. Yet Forest City is not the whole story of Johor. While one part of the state grapples with the consequences of a failed megaproject, another has quietly become the engine room of Southeast Asia's digital economy, helping Malaysia leapfrog Singapore to become the region's fastest growing data center market. How did that happen? Watch our next video to find out.